The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Welcome. It is Friday and Idaho Signal's on the air. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Edwards, and it is good to see you here on this Friday show. We got a lot of fun things lined up for you. We're going to get into some of the details. The House and the Senate are in session right now. They're flying through some bills. We'll pay attention as always. And of course, the ticker down below will keep you up to date on a bunch of the bills that we watch here. I kind of wanted to open the show up here a little bit today with something that I think, is a reminder for you folks. Sometimes when you watch a program like this and we have the same opening all the time, that intro with all the clips of those great, some of the great legislators we have serving with us now, it can get a little stale because you hear it over and over again. But the reason why we open up the show, every show with that montage, is because I really want you to listen to what they're saying. There's some fantastic folks there who have been elected, and they just have a core sense of who they are and what their values are, and they all are on the same page in terms of being aligned with what it means to live in Idaho and what we're fighting for and what we're fighting to preserve. And so every time I watch it, every time I watch it, I get goosebumps at every now and again at some of the lines that are said there. And they were said during a debate, or they were said during a hearing, and they really do mean something. And when I think early in the clip there, Representative Elaine Price talking about how we shouldn't be relying on government for everything. We need to be relying on our churches. We need to be relying on our charities. We need to be relying on each other, on our community. It's not the government's responsibility. They have a very limited responsibility, and we just keep abdicating everything to them. We just keep letting them just take over, and so while it can be hard to say, no, I'll do it on my own, we have to have more of that. We have to have more of that, me included. I mean, I sometimes would just say, oh, I'll let somebody else take care of it, or let the government take care of it. But we really need to be responsible and do it ourselves. And so please, when you're watching the opening of the show, or if you always join late, make sure you listen to each one of those words that are being spoken there. All right. Enough about that. Although it's never enough. Okay, folks, a quick reminder, idahosignal.live. If you're on the road right now, or if you're at home and you're just like, you got it in your ear, welcome to the program. That's where you can listen to the show live. It's audio only. And then it repeats 24/7 until we come back on the air. So if you miss any portion of this program, or you just want to listen to it, take it on the go, as they say, in idahosignal.live. And then, of course, we always want to hear from you. We want to hear your rants. We want to hear your praises. We want to hear what's not being talked about. And so to do that that's where you do it. 208-402-4915. Leave a voicemail, and we will catch you this session and play it on the air. That's what we need to do. So thank you for doing that. We had some great voicemails so far. So that's really great. Okay, so it's Friday. So here's what's going to happen today. We have a great guest coming on here very shortly, and we're going to get into something that's going on in the Ada County, Boise, Treasure Valley area. I mean, if you're within, I don't know, an hour drive or something, this is totally worth it to come do this. And so we'll have a guest on to talk about that. We are going to get into something that happened yesterday in the business committee. There was this bill on debanking. If you don't know what debanking is, we've got the clips to show you what that means. And then if the debate in the Senate ends by the time we're still on the air, Senator Tammy Nichols will join us, and we are going to talk about this bill that finally has been printed. I don't think there is not a hearing scheduled yet, but this is a bill that we've seen creep up the last couple of years that would basically provide immunity to the makers of that glyphosate pesticide thing, Roundup, stuff like that, that Monsanto, they're now owned by Bayer, that they've been trying to get this legislation across the board that would indemnify them from any lawsuits or anything because of their product. So it's a very interesting, very interesting bill because, agriculture loves this stuff because it makes their crops, their yields good. But then there's a lot of concern from the consumer side about what's in our food. And so if there is something we need to take care of and watch and protect the people from, I mean, that's part of what government is here for. So we need to, we'll talk through that with Senator Tammy Nichols. She's the chairwoman of the Senate Agricultural Committee. So by all intents and purposes, we would imagine that bill would go through there. And then we'll just cover a couple other things there as well. So, well, let's get right to it. I believe our guest is here. Lynn Bradescu is the chair and one of the founders of the speaker series, the Syringa speaker series there in Ada County. It's good to see you, Lynn. How are you?
I'm living the dream.
You certainly look like it. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
I love it. And now you're down in the Treasure Valley. You're in the Boise area. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about this speaker series? We have the website and the flyer as well. But tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind this.
Well, as these events have gotten more and more expensive, I decided that I was very active with the Ada County Lincoln Day Association, which is not a nonprofit, obviously, because it's political. So I decided that we needed something that people could be able to write off basically most of their ticket or their sponsorship and bring better speakers and bigger speakers to Ada County and Treasure Valley and Idaho in general. A lot of our speakers, which I had reached out to before, told us that they could not attend or speak at an event unless it was a nonprofit. So that was also a catalyst to be able to form this nonprofit here in Ada County, or here in the state and the nation, actually. And now we can bring in the big gun.
Oh, did we lose Lynn? Is that just me? Did we lose her? Is that just me, Jeremy, or is down? Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, here's the website, folks. Syringaspeaker.org. Is it .org? Maybe if we have the website, we can put it up on the lower third there. But we have I was talking with Lynn about this, and it was she back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know how it got muted, but whatever.
Okay, very good. You're back. All right.
Technology's great. Yeah, so I don't know how much of that you heard actually.
Well, you said you always tried to get a lot of speakers, but you were getting pushback because you're not a 501c3 or you're not a nonprofit.
Correct.
So that this is a nonprofit in order to be able to get good folks to come to Idaho, because we're kind of a dry area when not a lot of people want to come here, right?
Exactly. So that was, so we tried to get Tucker Carlson when he was still on Fox, and unfortunately he said that he couldn't do it because we were not nonprofit, and of course now he's gone on his own. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We do have a connection to him, so maybe we'll be able to get him someday. But Molly is on Fox as well, and she told me I can come if you're a nonprofit, and I said, well, we are, so it's great.
Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah. So let's set this up then. So your next speaker is Molly Hemingway.
Correct.
She is from the Federalist, I believe. She contributes to the Federalist.
She's the editor-in-chief of the Federalist. Yep. And she's a Fox News contributor, and she's written 2 wonderful books, one called Rigged, and she's working on another book for all about Justice Alito. Unfortunately, it won't be out by the time we have our event, but it's going to be out soon.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so that's April 26th.
Yep.
Okay, now again, do you raise money just to be able to bring people here, or what do you do with the money that you're raising?
Well, we hope we break even so we can bring another big speaker to town, because these things that, walking in the Boise Center is not inexpensive. It usually costs about $100,000 to put an event on. Just so people know, they think it's $5. It's not. They charge us for everything, every spoon, every tablecloth, every light, everything. I mean, it adds up. But the other good thing that we're going to be doing that night is we're going to be honoring the Boise Rescue Mission Ministries, which are based here in Boise. We're going to be giving the Leadership Award to Reverend Roscoe. And I don't know if people know about them, but they do not take any money from the government at all. They are completely self-sustained. Just your intro talking about how we need to step up and get away from government. This is the perfect example.
Yeah.
And he has several facilities across Ada County to get people out of homelessness, veterans especially, transitional housing. It's faith-based, so it's right up our alley, and I just love what we're doing. My mission here is to educate through philanthropy and education. So I think this is a great start, and I hope that we'll have a wonderful turnout. And everybody that is a VIP will get to go to the VIP event, get pictures with Molly, and a signed copy of her book.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes, and that is exactly it, Lynn. Like, over here on my other screen, I'm watching some of these yahoos stand up in the floor in the Senate, trying to find ways to give more money to take care of the problem and all this. And what we're really talking about is folks like you who will stepping up to the plate, identify a need somewhere, find a great organization like the one that you have here, and just say, hey, let's rally everybody around an event. We'll have a great speaker come in. It'll recharge our engines for conservatism, right? And let's if you have deep pockets, let's dig in them and donate and really try and help each other, because that's
exactly
at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So I really do appreciate your work there. And look, you're not just doing this. You're an active participant on the grassroots level, for conservatives across the valley and the state. Why don't you tell us a little bit about?
I'm known kind of as the pot stirrer down here. I live in the North End. I call it the People's Republic of the North End. It's a very difficult district, but I have wonderful PCs. I'm the LD chair, and I have wonderful PCs that help other areas get out the.
They're sabotaging her in the North End. That's what happens. That's what happens. Folks, look at this. The Syringa Speaker Series. Head over to did we get the URL up there? Head over to the website there. Yeah, the syringaspeakerseries.org. head over there. You can find your tickets. You can look to see who's coming up next. There it is, Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief of The Federalist. And this is going to be a fantastic event. I love these events, not just because you get to hear some great speakers, but it's such a great fun to like hang out with like-minded folks who are passionate about this stuff and getting together for some causes. And that's really what it's all about. This is the type of community building. This is the type of relationship building that you can get yourself engaged in. Get up off the couch and go out to these things and meet other people. I can't be a bigger fan of this kind of stuff than it is. I mean, folks, and this happens on a smaller level too in your county. If they have these Lincoln Day dinners that Lynn was talking about, or any sort of events that happen, you got to get off your tuchus and you got to get out there and mingle with the folks and get folks. Get yourself engaged with people and find a good cause. All right. Well, I'm not sure if Lynn will be able to bring it back on the screen, but we do thank her for joining us. Look, it's loading. It's loading. We give it a shot. All right, folks. If she can come back on in the next minute or so, we'll bring her in to say goodbye. But if she can hear me, thank you, Lynn, for coming on. We'll have you back when we have a better connection, and we'll talk through more about your event. We really want people to show up to this and support it for the great cause that it is. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll catch you up on some things that are happening all over the Statehouse. See you then.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
The dictionary defines a pledge as something that you give as a sign that you'll keep a promise. As Idahoans, that's what we're looking for in our elected leaders. A sign that they'll keep their word. Talk is cheap, and so are political promises, hidden agendas, and special interests. This is why we created the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge, affirming the values Idahoans have been living by for over 100 years, inspired by the only two documents everyone has agreed to live by. So when an Idaho legislator signs our pledge, inviting voters to publicly hold them accountable, that's what we call political integrity. The pledge restores trust and honesty between voters and their legislators. It means protecting our shared values and ensuring your voice is heard in Boise. And that is priceless. Thank your legislator for having the political courage to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho Pledge. And if they haven't, it's time to ask why.
All right, we got Lynn back here. Lynn, I just wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye and wrap up here.
Yeah, I want to say goodbye to everyone and hope I'll see them on the 26th. And if you still have time to come down to the Capitol to sit in on some of these sessions, I would highly, highly recommend it. It gives one a completely different perspective of what's going on in our state and how important it is to get involved and listen to some of these bills. And some of these legislators who I heard someone the other day, and I'm going to be working to get that person voted out, and they don't even live near me. I'm flabbergasted. I don't even know if they read the bills. They get up and ask the most moronic questions. Come on.
Oh, that's so great. Yes.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. It really is. It really is. And, it's fast-paced down there. And if we can keep up on it, maybe they should keep up on it too, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And some of them should just go over to the other party.
All right. Very good. I'm so glad to have you here.
Have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Take care, Lynn.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, very good. Yeah, she's right, folks. That's someone who's engaged, right? I've seen her testify and offer testimony on bills. You can do that. Look at her. She's starting the speaker series to raise money for some good causes and to keep people informed and keep people engaged with each other. That's what it's all about. We love good activists like Lynn out there. Very, very great, good stuff and great supporter. Fantastic. Okay, good. Brian Allman is with us. Let's bring Brian in here. Brian, good to see you, my friend. Happy Friday.
It is Friday. It's and we're getting near the crunch time in the session. They're still hoping to be out by the 22nd. I'm not sure they will, but they're going to be in a rush for every day from now on.
Yeah, I mean that's still their aim, is they want to be out by the 22nd. So we'll see if that happens. As they do that, we talked about, I don't know if we talked about this on the air, but the way they kind of like manipulate the calendar sometimes to like hold, because the only thing that they're mandated to do, if I'm correct, Brian, the only thing that they're mandated to do by law is to balance the budget. Once that's done, they don't really have to look at any other bills, right?
That's correct. Constitutionally, they're required to come in and bring out a balanced budget. The amount of money that comes in has to match up to the amount of money that goes out, and vice versa. And yeah, everything else is just stuff to do while they're here balancing the budget. And so sometimes good bills end up just sitting on the floor or sitting in a committee. And then once they adjourn sine die at the end of the session, then they're done. And if you want it next year, you got to reintroduce it and start the process all over again.
Yeah. So, can you imagine a dream world scenario where all they did was go in and deal with the budget?
Well, there are things that need doing. There's actually other states that do alternating years. One year they do the budget, and then the next year they do everything else, and then they go back and forth.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Very true. Okay, very good. Well, let's get into something that we found fascinating yesterday. This is Senate Bill 1027. We saw it very early on in the session. This dealt with this whole concept of debanking. And it passed. It got amended. The bill got amended in the Senate. It passed the Senate. Ended up in the House Business Committee just yesterday, where it had its first public hearing. And Representative Josh Tanner was there to present the bill. Let's listen in.
With transparency, in the end, that's really the big item within this, is the transparency aspects. And these large corporations, these large banks, banking and merchant processors are not being transparent. This bill deals with debanking. A lot of people, even including myself, a few years back, I didn't realize debanking was even a thing. And then the more and more research I actually did, the more and more I found out wasn't just happening, it was actually shady on how it was actually happening and how these institutions were targeting Americans. For the banks, though, themselves, it makes me even more mad because they got massive bailouts with our tax money. And then they turn around and tell us that they can debank us for any reason. They don't have to tell us why. They can shut our accounts down. They can shut our auto deposits off. They can shut our debit cards off. They can do a lot of things with us without having to tell us why. And then as you start looking at the list of people that have actually been, especially organizations that have been debanked, it becomes very alarming at what they're actually doing and who they're actually going after.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to point out is
so that's the crux of the issue here, right, Brian? I mean, is we've seen this happen across the country, and I really liked Josh Tanner's point here that look, we've bailed out these banks. If it wasn't for taxpayer money, these banks would be gone, and we'd be dealing with a whole set of different banking system, a whole different set of people or CEOs that we'd have to deal with. I mean, who knows? Some of the smaller banks would have thrived afterwards, and who are more in touch with the people and wouldn't be doing this type of thing. So I think there was a valid argument there to tie the two together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the banks have become more and more integrated into our society and into our government, go all the way back to the New Deal. And, President Roosevelt was starting to put in regulations over banks. And now they've got tons of regulations. And then, like Representative Tanner said, then we're bailing them out. So are these really private entities? That's, because that's one of the arguments people make. Oh, well, a private business has the right to decide who they want to do business with. Well, that's not actually true anymore. At least in America, for the last 50 years, if you do any form of discrimination, you're going to get in trouble. But these banks are essentially doing that. They're essentially discriminating against people or businesses or organizations. I don't know if you've got the clip loaded up, but the chairman of the Constitution Party of Idaho came in and testified on this bill, saying that he and his organization, his political party, was debanked. I believe it was by U.S. Bank, and they didn't say why.
Right, and that's a big part of this bill. We do have that clip, so let's let him tell the story here.
It's Tony Ulrich. I'm the state chairman for the Constitution Party of Idaho. Okay. And last March, right before the presidential primary, U.S. Bank sent us out a letter. I received it in the evening. I laid it next to my chair to have some coffee in the morning and read it. We just received our bank statement, so I assumed it was advertising or, the things that banks usually send you out. When I woke up the next morning, I opened the envelope and I found a check for our account balance and a notice on it that just said account closure. No explanation, nothing whatsoever. I was really shocked because, like I said, we just received our bank statement. We just recently, within the last month, changed leadership within the party, got new account signers, and we'd all just received our bank cards. I mean, literally within the week previous. There was no explanation. I immediately called the helpline to find out what was going on, and I spent 2 hours that morning on the phone with their customer service representative and could get no answer. She suggested that I contact my local branch and see if they could help me better. So when my branch opened, I took some time off of work, went down to my local branch, and I spent almost 2 hours again with our branch manager, who escalated the situation several times, and we just couldn't get an answer. I finally, about 2 that afternoon, received a call from U.S. Bank, and they said they simply just decided to not do business with us anymore. Normally under most situations,
out of this. So, Brian, I mean that's atrocious. And one of the things that this bill does is not necessarily say you can't stop doing business with somebody per se. It's saying you got to give them the reason. Right? The reason why. And then if the reason happens to be, be transparent. And if the reason happens to be, for a bunch of these different reasons, that then the customer may have a cause of action, because you can't discriminate based on those things. So it's all about transparency here, right?
Right. The Bankers Association lobbyist got up and talked for a long time in that hearing yesterday.
Yeah, we have that clip. Yeah,
I was in the room there. One of the things she said is that if a bank isn't telling you why your accounts are being closed, then it's possible that it's due to some federal regulations regarding fraud, that if they suspect fraud, they're not allowed to tell you. The one thing I wondered, and I really wanted to get up and ask this, in some sort of testimony, is, well, what's to stop banks from, that want to discriminate, from just saying, oh, well, we thought there was fraud there, so we can't tell you what's going on.
Yeah. Which I mean, if you suspect fraud, why wouldn't you want to tell somebody like, hey, I think you may or may not know, but you're committing fraud, or call the authorities and start a case. I mean, that's these strange regulations. But one of the things that this lobbyist did do was try to provide some more amendments to the bill. But the way that this went about, Brian, this is what's really fascinating. I mean, look, we've seen people stand up and suggest amendments, but this went a little further than I would have ever seen before. Let's watch this clip.
There are 2 other states that have enacted this legislation or similar legislation, and that's Tennessee and Florida. One was last year, one was the year prior. The amendments we're asking you to consider would bring Idaho's bill more into alignment with what is on the books in Tennessee and Florida, where banks are already complying with those laws, which would make it more reasonable for them to comply with the law in Idaho. So first, we would ask that you remove the private right of action in the bill, which is on page 3, lines 43 and 44. We agree that the Attorney General should investigate and enforce violations of this act without opening the door for all kinds of, a lawsuit industry here in Idaho based on this. If members of the committee are not interested in removing the private right of action, we would at least ask that you limit the scope of the bill to persons in Idaho to keep opportunistic out-of-staters from taking advantage of this law. Also, we would ask that you consider a simpler, consistent complaint process so that banks can manage complaints and respond appropriately. The amendments we provided spell out a process that is closer to what is in place in Florida and Tennessee, and these changes would make the process clearer for everyone. We also did ask for a change in the timeline. 14 days was pretty quick to receive a complaint, investigate the complaint, and respond, so we asked for 30 days rather than 14. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'd stand for any questions. And I also will disclaim that I'm pretty new at my job. So if it's highly technical, I may phone a friend in the audience, if that's all right.
All right, Ms. Satterley, you indicated some amendments. Did you write some new amendments that I haven't seen yet? Because I saw a list of things the other day.
And Mr. Chairman, per your sage advice, we whittled the list down to what we thought was the most important. And it was only maybe 20 minutes before committee, but I did send them to the secretary to be distributed. Too late.
Okay. So we don't have them specifically.
I have some copies.
Okay, if you've got a copy for the page.
I do. I apologize.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
That's great. She's got amendments and everything, but you're talking about a member's bill here. Has she shared them with the member? Is the member okay with the amendments? Is the sponsor in the Senate okay?
I haven't seen them, and I don't think she's shown them to the member, but I told her if she had anything that she'd need to be very specific, and that's what she's doing. And I'm not trying to jump ahead, and I'm just trying to get out in front of us exactly what their concerns were. So.
Okay, Brian, I don't want to steal the thunder here. Let's just roll the clip with Josh Tanner.
You've had a chance to look at the amendments, and you can weigh in on your thoughts about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first off, extremely frustrated that you would allow a lobbyist to come up here and extend her time to have a hostile motion on my bill that was not presented to me. She came and said that she didn't get a chance to come present this to me, and you allowed this to continue to go on.
Mr. Chairman, could we go at ease for just a second and step out back?
Sure.
Take
go at
this
ease.
Idaho politics, baby. Let's go step out back. Come on, Brian. What are we seeing there, boy?
No, that was fun. I was I was there in the room watching that, and it was a little bit spicy. I needed to have popcorn in the committee hearing room there. So basically, what's happening is that usually if some industry representative or lobbyist or some stakeholder wants to make some amendments to a bill or wants to propose amendments, they work with the bill sponsor, and they had to an extent over on the Senate side. The sponsor was Senator Kelly Anthon, the pro tem. And he took up one of the suggestions and made a minor change to the bill, and it passed the Senate overwhelmingly, bipartisan. Democrats voted for it too. And then it comes over to here on the House side, and you get the Bankers Association lobbyist getting up and saying, well, we want first of all, she had the chutzpah to say that banks don't debank anybody for ideological or religious reasons. She said, oh, that just doesn't happen. And then she goes on to say, well, that there's problems with this bill and we need to fix it. So here's some amendments. And she's, having the page hand them out to the committee members. Meanwhile, the bill sponsor is sitting back there, and they've never actually had a one-on-one meeting about this. When Representative Crane asked if she had talked to the sponsor, you can't hear it in the video, but Tanner says no. You could hear him in the room. So yeah, he was frustrated by that. And I've seen some other frustration throughout this session about lobbyists having a bit too much power, lobbyists having the ability to actually present bills in committee instead of just testifying on them.
Yeah,
so
but Brian,
they're getting a little too cozy in this process.
Yeah, and Brian and the chair of the committee, totally entertaining the idea. Totally entertaining the idea. Oh yeah, hand out the amendments. We'll talk amongst ourselves and figure out what to do. And it was you're totally hijacking the bill here.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did come back. Representative Tanner called it a hostile amendment. And, that's actually a term that they use in here for an amendment that goes against the will of the bill sponsor. Right. Sometimes there's amendments that the sponsor says, okay, yeah, I see that. I agree. Let's change the bill. Let's change the wording a bit. That's a friendly amendment. Then you have a hostile amendment where they're trying to change the whole purpose of the bill. And that actually happened yesterday in the House floor. They went into their general orders to amend a bill. And it was Representative Dory Healy's bill to say that if you have a campaign sign, you have to have your party on there, Republican, Democrat, or an elephant or a donkey or whatever. Representative Monica Church, Democrat from Boise, presented some amendments to it that would say not only do you not have to put that on there, but you have to, but you only have the option of doing it. You may put your party on there, which completely defeats the purpose of the bill,
Yeah.
and that is a hostile amendment. It's contrary to the purpose of the bill sponsor. So, yeah. So Representative Tanner, he came back. Are you going to play the clip?
No. He came back and,
he came back and he very politely said, I do not want to see any amendments to this. Please send it to the floor, and they did.
And that's what the committee did. Yeah, they ended up sending it to the floor with only a couple of people dissenting. So, yeah, very good, very good. All right, and there was also another comment from, we're not going to play the clip, but Cornell Razor, he had that happen to him as well. So he had a sitting legislator who got debanked. He had an interesting comment about how he didn't even get his money back. He had to wait a long time to get his money, and then he said he used some strange methods to get his money back. And he said it'll leave it up to our imagination. We'll play the clip later, perhaps.
I just want to imagine Representative Racer, robbing a bank or something.
Exactly.
If we have time for one more thing on this issue. I wrote about this yesterday over at Gem State Chronicle, this bill and this whole issue. And apparently the federal government is addressing this as well. The Senate just introduced a bill that takes away the ability of banks to use something called reputational risk as a factor in determining whether or not to close someone's account. And that's really kind of been their excuse for this. They say, well, guns are bad and they have a bad reputation, so we don't want to do business with anybody who's selling guns or gun accessories because that brings us reputational risk. That harms us by association, or whether it's conservative organizations or the Constitution Party of Idaho, that's kind of been their excuse. So they're addressing it at the federal level too, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. All right, Brian, we're going to let you go. We got Senator Nichols on deck. Where can people follow you? And we got an article coming out today from you as well.
Yeah. GemStateChronicle.com. I talked about the debanking issue yesterday. Today I'm looking at digital IDs and licenses. Gem State Brian on Twitter, still trying to live tweet everything. And also, watch for Citizens Alliance on X with the exclusive article, just looking at how our legislators are, their job is to protect our life and liberty. And sometimes that means, you've got to protect people from other people. You got to protect people from dangerous ideologies, exactly what you've been talking about this week about what's going on in our schools. It's time to pay more attention to that.
Very good. All right, Brian, have a great weekend, brother.
Thanks, man.
All right. Well, let's bring in Senator Tammy Nichols. I know she's under a time crunch here. Hey, Senator, thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Matt. How are you?
I'm pretty well.
Good.
So you're head of the Senate Agricultural Committee. You're the chairwoman there, and I know that there's a bill that might or might not come across your committee, and it's getting a lot of attention because this deals with glyphosate. It deals with Monsanto, a lot of things that the common person is always wary about, and so we kind of wanted to get your take on this because we've seen a bill over the past couple of years that would seek to sort of give immunity to the makers of these products in order to still allow their products to be used in Idaho. And now we have a new bill this year that's somewhat different than what we've seen years before. Can you catch us up to speed on the issue and what we might be dealing with?
Yeah, I can touch briefly on that because we have not had anything come over on our side at this time. But I have been in conversations with the House side and also with the proponents of this piece of legislation. And so, yes, last year there were 3 attempts to try to bring in a similar piece of legislation that was an immunity bill, basically a labeling immunity bill, basically saying that if you put this proper label on, that if anyone became sick or ill or whatever the case may be, that the company basically had immunity to paying out anything if they were found guilty and yada yada. So this year there have been, I believe, 21 states that they're trying to run similar bills or bills that have some tweaks into it into the states this year, Idaho being one. They tried it in 3 states last year. All 3 states failed. And again, in Idaho last year, it was attempted 3 times. So this year, it's a similar bill. There hasn't been a ton of changes to it. They started with a more broader bill that would have basically given immunity to all sorts of different types of entities, like car manufacturers and clothing. I mean, just a wide array of different types of immunity. This one now scales it down to a couple of products, textiles and food that is grown. So there's two different things there. I still have issues with it because, again, it is giving this immunity without anyone being able to say, hey, look, I was damaged by this, or I was hurt by this, or I became ill by this, and they tell us, well, the science shows that glyphosates don't cause any problems, but I can find all sorts of science that says the opposite of that. And people are really concerned about what's happening with their food products, what's going into their foods, what's being used on their foods, pesticides, all that sort of stuff. And while I'm completely in support of our farmers and agriculture and all of that, I want to make sure that we're not hurting people and that we're keeping people healthy. And that if something does happen, I mean, we're not saying you can't use these products right now at this time. We're not banning these products or anything. But if there is responsibility and someone gets injured or someone gets sick and they can prove that, then there should be liability that comes forward on their behalf. So right now it is over into the House side. I haven't seen it come over here, but we're keeping an eye on things, and we'll see what happens. Let's see.
Oh, can you not hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay. This reminds me a little bit about how vaccine manufacturers back in the day were given immunity for their vaccines, and so
Right.
and people got upset. Well, like, we've seen a lot of vaccine injuries, and you're not allowed to take a case against the vaccine manufacturer. So I think there's somewhat worry here
Right.
when an entire industry says, "Hey, we want immunity," somewhat similar to that, and
Exactly.
And so I think there's we have a cause to have a little bit of pushback or concern onto why they're pushing for this so hard.
Right, exactly. And that, and that's kind of where my mind goes, about giving the pharmaceutical industry vaccines that immunity, and that the government actually had to set up a special fund for if people are damaged, that there is this special fund that you might be able to, recoup from or recover from. And that's kind of where I could see this going. If this got passed, then does the government now have to set up a special fund for those that are injured? The other thing is that, this company, Bayer, they purchased Monsanto, which is the maker of these pesticide products, while they had numerous court cases that were going on. And so they purchased them knowing that there was these court cases and that there were issues. In some other countries, they have banned phosphate and the ability to be able to use products like this. But right now, we're just saying, I just think it's best practice that we don't go into this whole immunity thing, that, we let the courts decide. And if there is a cause of action that needs to come forward, that we allow that to happen, bring forth your evidence and let the courts determine, if you were guilty or not. But let's not stop people from being able to, recoup or to be made whole because of damages and issues that happened because they utilize the products and in a lot of cases utilize them correctly and still ended up with issues. So that's kind of where we're at on that. But we will continue to watch as the session progresses. But we're getting down to the wire on the session, so there's not going to be a lot of time left.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah, we're watching it. You guys are busy. Well, thank you so much for taking a quick time out to walk us through that. It's very important. People were messaging us and wanted to stay on top of it. So I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Yeah. And where can people follow you on social media and keep in touch with your work?
Yeah, follow me on pretty much every platform, Nichols for Idaho, or you can also go to my website, nicholsforidaho.com, and follow me on all the social media stuff and my Substack.
Fantastic. All right, Senator, thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Very good. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll regroup, and we'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
All Idaho lawmakers swear an oath to support the Idaho and U.S. constitutions. But how's that working out for you? Because not all Idaho lawmakers share the same values. That's where the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge comes in. 10 statements inspired by those 2 founding documents that are designed to preserve our shared values. Values such as education freedom, safeguarding free speech, defending our protected right to self-defense, and being responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. When a lawmaker signs the pledge, they are performing an act of political courage, accepting the challenge to be a champion for our values, and serving with political integrity. To find out if your lawmaker signed the pledge, visit idahopledge.com. Paid for by Citizens Alliance of Idaho. We ride together. All right, folks, we're going to dive into this issue still, what's happening at the Boise School District, because we're going to beat this drum. So real quickly, if you've been watching all this week, you already know where we're at right now, which is a female student stumbled upon and discovered a male student in the girls' restroom masturbating. And this has shocked quite a few people, including the parents and a lot of you and me out there. But for some, it just felt like they were just sort of nonchalant about it. We showed you the email yesterday where a school administrator acknowledged that this boy was part of a gender support plan, and that they get to choose whatever bathroom they wish to go into. I don't know if the gender support plan encourages that kind of behavior once you go into the bathroom, into those restrooms, but that's what happened. And so we were very curious about what is this whole gender support plan. And so I want to walk you through an actual document. I don't know how current this is. I don't know if this is the document that they have now. This document was uncovered in 2023 by Anna Miller when she was working with the Idaho Freedom Foundation and doing a huge expose on what was going on in our public schools. It's fantastic work. Anna Miller she basically laid the foundation for everything that we need to use in order to find out what the heck is going on in our schools. So I want to walk you through this gender support plan. Go ahead and bring it up full screen there so people can kind of watch us walk as we go through here. This again, it's got the Boise stamp at the top here. This is called the Gender Support Plan. And I guess when a student is ready to find support for their gender identity, they go to the school administrator, or maybe the school administration asks the child. I'm not quite sure how this goes yet. I do have emails out there trying to get answers on this. But as you can say here, this starts off right away. Student's preferred name goes right at the top. Their preferred name and their legal name. You can see that right up there. So if you're Danny McBride and you want to be Danielle McBride, then you can swap it that way, right? You put in your student's gender and their assigned sex at birth, what grade they're in, their date of birth, and their parent or guardian's name. Now I love that they acknowledge that this child has a parent or guardian. And then the very next question, if you see below, is the guardian of the student aware of the student's wish to implement a gender support plan, or is the guardian supportive? And is the guardian supportive of the student's wish to implement a gender support plan? So right away, we're trying to figure out if the parents are on board and how far they are on board. I'm going to say this right up front. I'm still trying to figure out is if this document gets shared with the parent automatically, or if this is something that is withheld from the parent. We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet. But let's look at the next section here. Would they ask about student safety? And these are, who will be the student's, quote, go-to adult on campus? Who will be the student's go-to adult on campus? Does the student feel that regular one-on-one check-ins are necessary? And if so, who will provide this support? If this person is not available, who should the student go to? Who should the student do? So this thing's not even like grammatically correct. So this is a poor job of framing this official document, right? Next question. What are the expectations in the event the student is feeling unsafe, and how will the student signal need for help? Folks, if you've got kids in public school, is this part of the intake form when you send your kids to school? Do all students get a go-to adult on campus? Do they take care of you? Like, for instance, let's say you have a daughter and you're sending them to public school, if they encounter, a boy in the bathroom masturbating, do they have a go-to adult? Is that, if you're a parent, give us a call. The number scrolls down below. Put it in the chat. Do your kids have a go-to adult? Let's go further down here. Name and student records. This is where we start just like collecting the things that they want to go by, right? What is the name and gender marker currently in the student information system? How is the student currently identified? Now, we need to know what the name they want to be called. What are their pronouns? What name and gender marker does the student and parent want reflected in the student information system? Can preferred pronouns be noted on the student information system? What do we want their name on the high school diploma to be? Right? Now, then there's this note. When you apply for colleges, most colleges and universities require legal names on your transcripts. So even though in the school you can change your name to whatever you want to be, you got to make sure that corresponds with your legal name, because when you start applying for colleges, they require your legal name. What a mess. What a mess they're created. Here's another question right below that disclaimer. The use of facilities. Student will use the following restroom on campus, meaning girls or boys. Student will use the following locker rooms on campus, boys or girls. Well, I don't know why they're separated. Do you get to use the girls' restroom but want to use the boys' locker room? Do you get to use the boys' restroom and get to use the girls' locker room? What kind of, and again, is this on the intake form when you send your kid to a public school? If they're not on a gender support plan, is there another plan? And then it goes on throughout. There's also confidentiality, privacy disclosures. How much of this information about the student's gender will be public or private? Is the student only a private gender identity person, or are they going to be public? There's a section here. Student will not be openly out, but some students are aware of the student's gender. So specify the students. Now you have to name out other students who have affirmed this person's identity. Folks, what is this? This is what they're wasting their time on at the Boise High School and Boise School District. This is what they're wasting their time on. Is this our tax dollars? Is this what we want? Is this what we want happening? Where did this come from? Well, we told you earlier this week about a larger organization based out of California, Berkeley, no less, genderspectrum.org. And they have their version of a confidential gender support plan. Let's bring this up because this one looks a lot more put together, right? You got the box here. You got what school district are you in? You got your date, the pronouns, sex assigned at birth, the name the students use, all the other people that are in this plan. Meeting participants. So apparently this happens at a meeting. So you're having a meeting, right? Look at the parental involvement here. This is what it's on the form. Is the guardian aware of the student's gender status? Yes or no? And then the support level. Do they have zero support or do they have high support? Or somewhere in the middle. And if the support is low, what considerations must be accounted for in implementing this plan? What does that mean? What considerations? Like, we have to keep it a secret? Folks, this is what we're dealing with. And this is happening in Idaho. I keep hearing, this isn't happening in Idaho. Go back to the other form. The other form is stamped with the Boise logo, the Boise School District logo, right there at the top. There it is. And we have the email where the administrator at the school says, right there, the students who are on a gender support plan. It's capitalized. This is a known thing. Folks, I emailed this person who wrote that. I asked them about a series of questions, and I asked them to reply to me by the end of the day today, by the end of the week today. So we'll see if we'll get that reply. We'll let you know next week. Because if we don't get a reply, then everybody has to know who this person is that works there. So we can all start asking him the question. Because maybe then we'll get some answers. It's disturbing, folks. It's disturbing. Don't let them tell you it's not happening, because it's happening. And then these are the consequences. That poor girl, these poor students. You have an administration, you have teachers who don't care about these girls. They don't care. They care more about bowing down to some woke ideology than taking care of these girls and protecting them. They didn't ask for this. These girls they just want to go to school. They just want to get an education. They just want to partake in some extracurricular activity like a band or sports. And they want to move on with their life. They don't want to be accosted in a bathroom. They don't want to be subjected to this stuff. It ruins their life. It ruins their life because you as an administrator and as a sicko teacher act this way. I'm telling you, people, you need to step up. I keep seeing articles in the news about how there's going to be a walkout because of the new Trump immigration law, or there's going to be a protest at a school because somebody's feelings got hurt because they had to take down a flag. Where are you? I don't live down there. But where are you? Why aren't you in front of these schools? It's disgusting. All right, folks, sorry to end a Friday on that, but that's where you got to be. You got a whole weekend to think through it. Yeah. All right, we had some other clips and things to go to, but I don't know how to segue out of this, so we'll just end it there. Folks, it's really upsetting. It's really upsetting. Because I swear to God, if this was my daughter, if this was my child that this happened to, holy cow. I mean, I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. We do these things to bring awareness because the news doesn't talk about this. Why isn't this in the news? We're trying to cut through the noise here. We're trying to point where the attention needs to be. And it needs to be on these issues. These are our girls. All right. Well, I thank you for joining us this week. It's been a hard week. We're going to have some more answers, hopefully. Hopefully we'll get some answers, or at least some more direction to get going there. So, yeah. Leave us a voicemail. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I want to hear what your plans are. 208-402-4915. You can email me. You can send me a DM on Twitter or X at TrueMattEdwards. That's me. You can find me there. There was some activity today on medical freedom. That bill, and I know a lot of people were watching at the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. It passed, so there's some good news. It passed the House, and it'll head its way to the floor of the House here soon. So, all right, folks, that's it for me. That's it for all of us. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. We'll see you on Monday.
I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.